Daybreak in paradise. Words that sum up how many feel when they see the sun rise over Rwanda in equatorial East Africa. The land of 1,000 hills. That's what Rwandans themselves call their homeland. A homeland that turned into a living hell. In 1994, the country was engulfed by genocide, which left scars that can still be seen today. Militia groups like this in the early 1990s spread terror across Rwanda, stirring up hatred and violence against an ethnic minority, the Tutsi. In April 1994, the BBC carried the following newsflash.
The presidents of Rwanda and Burundi in Central Africa have been killed in a plane crash.
The president's plane had been shot down. Even today, no one knows who was responsible, but the militias took the assassination as a signal. A wave of horrific killing ensued. The victims, identified in lists drawn up long in advance, were almost all Tutsi. The murderers belonged to Rwanda's largest ethnic group, the Hutu. Ordinarily, Hutu and Tutsi lived peacefully together. They even intermarried, but hostility had been deliberately fueled by the Hutu government and its militias. In the 3 months from April to June 1994, nearly 1 million Rwandans were massacred. Today, in a suburb of Rwanda's capital, Kigali, a peaceful Sunday morning. Protestant Christians from Germany are guests of the Presbyterian Church, which is celebrating its 100th anniversary. Gisela Stolt and Pastor Aaron Mugomera have known one another for nearly 20 years. Her visits to the partner church predate the genocide. A brief greeting in Kinyarwanda, the country's official native language, spoken by both Hutu and Tutsi. A service naturally follows, but church partnership means more.
Partnership takes place at a personal level. It's personal contact that is important. The fact that we're here now enables personal relationships to develop. It also gives us a better idea of daily life here, helps us appreciate what problems people face in their daily lives and what kind of things occupy their thoughts.
The younger members of the visiting German group are making their first contacts. Others lost good friends in the 1994 genocide. Today there's a modern road link with the outskirts of Kigali.
I'm on my way to see Leokadi Gafaringa this morning. She's the widow of the superintendent of the church we established a partnership with in 1985.
Flashback to the 80s. The same road, a different group of German visitors. Seated beside Gisela Stolt is pastor and superintendent Eduard Gafaringa. The service was held in a provisional church. Pastor Gafaringa was worried about the political situation in the country.
The fact that the delegation from North visits us in these difficult times shows the deep bond of friendship that exists between us and the sincerity of the desire to help through partnership.
After the service, the superintendent's wife, Leokadi Gafaringa, gave a cookery lesson. Feeding a family here calls for improvisation. Rwanda is a poor country. Meeting Leokadi Gafaringa today.
Oh, bonjour, ma chère. Bonjour, ma chère. Oh, quel plaisir de te voir.
She is delighted that the German visitor has taken the trouble to come here. Rwandans speak of their home as their hill. Leokadi Gafaringa proudly shows us her small house, where she lives with a young couple and child to whom she is distantly related.
Oh, voilà, une photo de...
Gisela Stolt discovers a photograph of Eduard Gaffaringa that brings back memories of a meeting 20 years ago. Eduard Gaffaringa was one of the victims of the Rwandan genocide. The two women visit the place where he sought refuge on his return from a pastor's conference, his home village. Accompanied by 3 other clergymen, he felt safe here. But the Tutsi pastor's hiding place, the village school, was betrayed to the militia by the Hutu president of his own church. Weeks later, with friends, Leokadi Gaffaringa discovered her husband's remains.
We had uncovered a number of human body parts when I recognized my husband's head from his teeth. I said, "Stop." It was there beside a tree where the soil was dry. They had hacked him to pieces. He was over there by that tree, in a very small hole in the ground.
I find it particularly hard to come to terms with it all here in Romero, because when the church partnership started up, I spent a week with the Gaffaringas, lived in their house and learned a great deal about the community. So it's deeply shocking to hear Leokadi say now that many of the villagers watched as her husband was killed and came to her afterwards and behaved as if nothing had happened. It's incredible to think that these people who I've seen in all sorts of situations could be capable of doing something like that, or standing by and watching it be done.
Outwardly, there's virtually no sign of the country's recent brutal history, not even of tension between the major ethnic groups, the Hutu and Tutsi. But the memory of the horror is on everyone's doorstep. Where mass graves are found, the government places memorials. 1,500 Tutsi hid in this school. All of them were murdered. The corpses were excavated. Preserved with lime, they are now a gruesome reminder. Before the genocide, Rwanda was 90% Christian.
I think anything as terrible as what happened here is beyond religion, or it's on a different level from religion. There have been cases of genocide in all sorts of cultural and religious contexts. I don't think it had anything to do with religion.
The Presbyterian Church today feels responsible for the survivors. One of the homes established for orphan children in Kigali. Many of them are 13 years old, born months after the nightmare in 1994. The church delegation from Moers knows this project is supported with money from Germany, but a great deal more needs to be done.
Wie ihr wisst, hat eben dieses Land eben den Völkermord erlebt, 1994.
Many children lost their parents in the genocide and landed on the street because they had nowhere else to go.
The wave of atrocities destroyed the fabric of society. Whole families were wiped out. There were no grandparents, no aunts, no other relatives who would normally take care of orphan children. Even today, no one knows precisely how many children survived the genocide as orphans. In this church-run home in Kigali alone, 300 are being looked after. The church workers perform an amazing logistical feat every day in the kitchen, organising and cooking food for 300 children. So financial support from the partner church in Germany is vital. For one thing, it helped provide the job done by Jean-Pierre Nataganda. Now 28 years old, he was one of the youngsters orphaned and made homeless by the genocide. At the orphanage, Jean-Pierre received training in social work. Now he is an outreach worker with credibility among the street kids of Kigali.
I try to persuade the kids to come into the project. Many of them are reluctant to come forward on their own. Apart from that, they can earn a bit of money. So I have to go to the places where they hang out. I explain to them that it's important to get an education, but I can't force them.
The church guest house is a delightful hilltop retreat, but the Germans are not here on a pleasure trip. Every day they confront the harsh realities of Rwanda. Nearly half the adult population is illiterate. So the church builds schools, especially in remote villages. If these youngsters faced an hours-long walk to school every day, they would soon stop going. A class of 50 children is a challenge for a teacher. Rubbing shoulders on the benches are Hutu and Tutsi. It's impossible to tell them apart. The joint lessons are a boon and are preceded every day by prayers in the church school.
I visited this area several years ago on an evangelization program, and there was nothing here. There was a field and a tree, and that's where the services were held.
Pictures from the past. They danced and partied together, but talk of tensions between Hutu and Tutsi, even in the church parish, was rife. Even so, nobody anticipated the scale of the disaster that was looming.
So seeing this school building and this nursery school, no matter how modest and simple they are, is really exciting and very pleasing.
Now preparations are being made for the construction of 2 more classrooms, with German assistance and a lot of local initiative.
The foundation stones for the walls are carried here singly on parishioners' heads and then deposited here. When people come to Sunday service, they all carry a stone on their head, a stone they've picked up somewhere to bring here.
On this Wednesday morning, only a small group turns up to greet the German visitors. At times, there are strong signs of a will to work for ethnic reconciliation.
The choirs meet to sing. They are like brothers and sisters. They talk together and sing together, and no one is excluded.
Sans mettre quelques-uns côté ou les autres à côté.
Flashback again to late autumn 1994 at the Presbyterian Central Church in Kigali. The genocide ended only a few months ago. Aaron Mugamera holds a service in what's left of the church building. The pastor found to his horror that the murdering militia had included youngsters who had attended his confirmation classes. He himself was left to live with a memory in which horror was mixed with the guilty feeling of having deserted his own family. In an interview at the time, he explained what had happened.
My wife and my 7 children were all together in the house when the militia broke in. They struck wildly with machetes. No hiding place was safe. Because I was near the door, I was able to get out. I felt God's hand helping me. I managed to escape. Then they killed everyone else, my wife and my 7 children.
The same church today, rebuilt. A service with the visitors from Germany. In the immediate aftermath of the atrocity, Pastor Mugomera could not imagine forgiving the perpetrators. Today, he's a voice for reconciliation.
What I experienced was certainly horrific, but I'm convinced that God knows why it happened to me. And one day, I know I will see my 7 children and my wife again in heaven. That's why I have no thoughts of vengeance, because only God has that right. I am not allowed to take revenge on anyone. I'm a pastor, and as a pastor I must love all people. That's why I've been working for reconciliation since 1994.
The central memorial for the genocide in Kigali. Beneath the massive concrete slabs are mass graves. More than 5,000 people were slaughtered on this spot alone. The Presbyterians have invited partner churches from all over the world to take part in a joint service of remembrance.
Christians failed to withstand evil, even officers of the church. They allowed themselves to become entangled in the violence. During the genocide, the church effectively ceased to exist.
L'Église n'existait presque plus pendant le génocide.
A kind of acknowledgement of guilt by the current church president. Don't forget, it was one of his predecessors who informed on Edouard Gafaringa and the clergyman with him. And the family of Pastor Mugomera was murdered by parishioners. On the surface, Rwanda appears to have emerged from the trauma and returned to a state of peace. There are signs, however, of resurgent tension between Hutu and Tutsi. Some fear that the unimaginable could even happen again.
La culture rwandaise.
Rwandan culture is a culture of community, of respect for the life of others, especially the weak, women, children and the elderly. But during the genocide, the rules of our culture were severely breached.
Les normes et les mesures de cette culture, c'est bien que les faibles, les enfants, les vieillards, les femmes,
the weak, the elderly, women and children were murdered. Any sense of humanity was forgotten. Our culture and Christian faith broke down. Evil had more power than human and Christian values.
In the underground vault of the memorial in Kigali, the names of those murdered are continuously read out. Every single victim is given a face.
Emmanuel, Bakari, Chinois, Bamusangi, Annonciata, Bamuzanire, Claudine, Mukanyangezi, Gatif.
Beatrice Mukansinga is a member of a church women's group that takes care of survivors of the genocide. She herself was outside the country in 1994 because her husband worked abroad. That saved her life. Today she visits a woman whose family was attacked by a militia group at night. Shot in the arm and chest, her neck slashed with a machete. She was left for dead, but she survived, the only one of the family. Now she says she can find no work and she has no land on which to grow vegetables. Hence her dependence on the constant support of the women's group. Beatrice Mukansinga hears stories like this every day.
I was shocked when I heard their story, because during the genocide I was not here. And when I came back to this country, my mother, my dad, my 5 brothers were killed. And I thought I was one who have suffered a lot. But when I heard the story of those orphans who have no parents, those women who can't move their arm, the one who have nothing, no cloth, no house, nothing. And I said, I have to keep quiet and just do something for others.
Beatrice Mukansinga did not just keep quiet. She founded an initiative, a meeting place for women and children. A Danish couple donated money for the building. Now women learn to sew here, but the main purpose of the centre is to help them cope with their traumatic experiences. Translated, the initiative's name means, "Speak, I will listen."
There are some young girls who were raped during the genocide, and they got children. In the beginning, they didn't want to keep those children. We tried just to mobilize them to keep those children because they are innocent.
Here, the young mothers have a chance to earn a little money. For the victims, it's a new chance at life.
We are in this earth for a short period. Tomorrow, I will go. After tomorrow, other one will go. So, you have to do good things when we are in this earth. If I continue to think of what happened, I will kill myself.
Hundreds of thousands of people in Rwanda need psychological and spiritual help. And a truth commission, like the one in South Africa, could bring national reconciliation. Some are still paralyzed by grief. Others suppress the horror. Both are an insidious illness. Church work projects try to help people secure a livelihood and also, if possible, heal their soul. This model farming project aims at promoting development while conserving resources. Stoves like this have been made for every family working in the associations. They cost 9,000 francs apiece.
Und hier so ein Ofen kostet 9,000 francs.
Around 10 euros to make optimal use of scarce firewood. Rwandans have enough daily problems.
The ethnic problem is like a weapon which is used by bad politicians. But ethnic differences are not here. You see every person, and they just don't mind about their ethnic belongings. What they come to work for is to overcome their problems and to meet their basic needs every day and to share everything they have. They don't just mind about their ethnic belongings.
One of Rwanda's few large-scale producers, Osir Cafe. Anyone who gets a job here, even as a day labourer, counts himself lucky. Unemployment in the country is at around 50%. Osir Cafe pays attention to quality. It's crucial for Rwandan coffee's chances on the world market. The management attaches importance to training. At this plant, Hutu and Tutsi also work side by side, fighting poverty together, developing and upgrading skills. This is how enlightened Rwandans aim to put an end to the old tribal conflicts.
It is rather a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of skills. Once people are being trained, as we try to do, they can overcome their problems and they can overcome poverty. They can work towards poverty alleviation. That's why we believe in training, training and training.
The German church partners' tour of Rwanda comes to an end, crowned with a final highlight at the National Stadium, a mass gathering marking the centenary of the Presbyterian Church. Here as well, Hutu and Tutsi are together. But the visitors see a responsibility for both the Rwandan churches and their partners in Europe. A great deal still needs to be said and done to achieve reconciliation.
Officials talk of reconciliation and portray it as the great objective. But when you hear about the terrible things that happened, it is hard to believe that simply resolving to pursue reconciliation can make it happen. It's good to keep reconciliation in sight as a goal, but there's a massive need for bereavement work, for public information, and above all, for work with the traumatized. I think the church needs to face facts here and address these issues.
Ganz ehrlich sein und muss sich dieser Aufgabe stellen.
N'ababimenyereza nababwiraga abastajiyeri ni bariya bambaye amakositimu n'abariya bakenyeye. Ndagira ngo murebe neza ukuntu abategarugori biganje.